Good morning, good people. Let me ask you a question right now. Have you ever stood in front of a door that just would not open? You pushed, you pulled, you prayed. You knocked so hard your knuckles hurt, and still nothing moved. And in that moment, you started to wonder, is this even the right door? Not every open door is a blessing, and not every closed door is a curse. That's a truth many people learn the hard way. We live in a world that tells us every opportunity is a good one, that if something becomes available to us, we should jump on it without hesitation. But that's not how divine alignment works. There are open doors that lead to confusion, compromise, and regret. And there are closed doors that protect, preserve, and position us for something greater. Too often, we get emotionally attached to the idea of an opportunity. Maybe it's a job offer that looks like a big break, a relationship that feels exciting, or a business deal that promises quick success. We assume that because the door is open, it must be God's will. But open doesn't always mean right. Sometimes the enemy opens a door too. He knows how to dress it up, make it look like a blessing, and lure you into a situation that pulls you away from your purpose. That's why discernment is more important than desire. Desire alone can blind you. When you want something badly enough, you'll start convincing yourself that it's right, even if all the signs say otherwise. You'll ignore the lack of peace, overlook red flags, and justify compromise. But if you're walking with God, you can't afford to move based on impulse. You have to ask, is this God's door or just a distraction? There are people who walked through open doors and ended up in bondage. They said yes to relationships that looked perfect on the surface, but came with hidden trauma. They took jobs that paid well, but robbed them of their integrity. They moved into opportunities that elevated their status, but drained their soul. And now they're trying to figure out how to escape what they once celebrated. That's the danger of trusting every open door. On the flip side, let's talk about closed doors. A lot of people treat a closed door like a rejection, like a personal failure. They see it as the end of the road. They don't realize it's divine protection. God doesn't close doors to punish you. He closes them to prepare you. He sees what you don't. He knows what's waiting on the other side of that so-called opportunity. And he loves you too much to let you walk into a trap just because you're impatient. Closed doors often come with disappointment. You pray, you plan, you believe, and then nothing, no call back, no approval, no response. And in that silence, the enemy tries to speak the loudest. You're not good enough. You missed your chance. You'll never get ahead. But that's a lie. The door didn't close because you weren't worthy. It closed because God has something better, something more aligned, something that won't require you to shrink, settle, or sell your soul. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is for God to shut a door in your face. Because in doing so, he's redirecting your steps. He's saying, you thought that was it, but I've got more. You thought you needed that, but I'm the source of your supply. And the moment you stop mourning the closed door, you can start moving toward the right one. When you trust that not every open door is a blessing, you learn how to wait on God. You learn to listen for peace, not just applause. You learn to recognize when something looks good, but isn't good best for you. And when you trust that not every closed door is a curse, you stop taking delays personally. You stop letting disappointment define your destiny. You start believing that God's now is just as powerful as his yes, and sometimes even more necessary. The truth is, spiritual maturity is the ability to walk away from an open door that doesn't have God's fingerprints on it. It's the courage to say, just because I can doesn't mean I should. It's the faith to let go of what's accessible and wait for what's anointed. And that kind of faith will save you years of regret. It'll protect your purpose. It'll preserve your peace. When you begin to see doors through the lens of discernment, instead of desperation, you realize that God is not random. He is intentional, strategic, and always working for your good, even when you don't understand it. So the next time you're standing in front of a door, don't just ask, is it open? Ask, is it mine? God's timing opens the right door, not your striving. That's a principle that separates those who walk in peace from those who live in pressure. We are conditioned in our culture to believe that success only comes through grinding, pushing, and forcing things to happen. We're told, if you want it, go get it. Don't wait, make it happen. And while diligence and discipline matter, there is a difference between godly diligence and anxious striving. One is rooted in faith, the other is rooted in fear. Striving says, if I don't do it, it won't get done. Striving operates from a place of scarcity, believing that every door has a deadline and every opportunity is about to slip away. So you push harder, you overthink, you overextend, and eventually you burn out. But faith says, if it's for me, God will release it when the time is right. That's not laziness. That's trust. That's wisdom. That's alignment. You can't force what's not ready, and you can't rush what's divine. God is not on your clock, and he's not moved by your anxiety. He's not obligated to speed up his process just because you're uncomfortable with the pace. In fact, the delays that frustrate you may be the very tools God is using to develop you. Because sometimes the problem isn't the door. It's that you're not ready to walk through it. If you enter too early, you'll mishandle what was meant to bless you. You'll step into roles your character can't sustain. You'll access rooms your discipline can't navigate. You'll say yes to things that feel like promotion but end in pressure, all because you mistook movement for momentum. Just because something is happening doesn't mean it's right for you. And just because something isn't happening yet doesn't mean it's not coming to you. God's timing is never random. It is precise, intentional, and perfect. You may think he's late, but he's not on your schedule. He's on his own. And he sees the full picture. You're looking at a snapshot, but he's watching the whole movie. He knows what's coming in 5 years that you can't see in 5 minutes. So while you're trying to rush into your next season, God may be slowing things down to make sure you're equipped for what's ahead. One of the greatest mistakes people make is thinking that striving will unlock what only surrender can. You cannot manipulate your way into God's best. You can't scheme, network, or grind your way into something that requires faith, obedience, and timing. You might get in a door by force, but you won't be able to stay there in peace. Because anything you have to force to open, you'll have to fight to keep. But what God opens by grace, he also sustains by grace. There's a divine rhythm to your life, and when you move with God's timing, things begin to flow. You stop chasing every opportunity. You stop panicking over closed doors. You stop living in comparison. You realize what's mine is mine, and it will find me when I'm ready. That doesn't mean you sit around doing nothing. You prepare, you grow, you build. But you do it without desperation. You work while you wait. You sow while you trust. And you let the results come in God's time. When you understand this, you stop treating time like an enemy. You stop measuring your value by how fast things are happening. You stop believing that delay equals denial. Some of the best things God will do in your life will come after a season of waiting. When you've matured, when your motives are pure, when your heart is in alignment with his will. Striving will exhaust you. Timing will elevate you. Striving will make you feel like you're always behind. Timing will remind you that nothing can stop what God has ordained. When the right door opens in God's timing, it will feel natural. You won't have to twist yourself into someone you're not. You won't have to beg for validation. You won't have to compromise your peace. It will feel like grace. It will feel like alignment. It will feel like home. Favor will do what force never can. That simple truth carries a weight that changes how you approach your life, your goals, your relationships, and your future. So many people are living under the constant pressure to make everything happen by their own effort. They believe that if they can just work harder, hustle more, or find the right connection, they'll finally get the breakthrough they're chasing. But what they don't realize is that I-force can open a door temporarily, but only favor can keep it open, and only favor can make it flourish. Force relies on your strength. It says, I have to push this through whether I'm ready or not. Favor, on the other hand, relies on God's grace. It says, if God is for me, it's going to happen. Not because of who I am, but because of who He friends. That's a major difference. You can spend years trying to muscle your way into spaces where you were never called to be, only to find that even if you succeed, you're still tired, empty, and constantly having to defend what you gained through striving. Favor doesn't look like striving. Favor looks like ease in the midst of obedience. That doesn't mean life becomes effortless, but it does mean that when favor is on your life, things begin to move in ways that don't make sense to other people. Doors open without you having to knock. People call you with opportunities you didn't even apply for. Resources show up just when you need them, and connections are made that only God could orchestrate. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's favor. When you try to force something, you end up putting more weight on yourself than God ever intended. You start feeling like it's all on you to keep the business afloat, the relationship healthy, or the dream alive. And that pressure leads to anxiety, burnout, and sometimes even bitterness, because deep down, you're wondering why it's so hard if it's supposed to be right. But favor doesn't carry that kind of weight. Favor doesn't need to be forced. Favor flows. Favor is not just about getting ahead, it's about getting aligned. When you walk in favor, you realize that God has already gone before you. He's prepared the way. He's softened hearts. He's positioned people. He's orchestrated moments you didn't even know you needed. And suddenly, what you were chasing begins to chase you. What you were stressing over begins to find you, not because you forced it, but because you followed God's lead. Let's be honest. There are people out there working harder than you, running faster than you, doing everything they can to climb the ladder. But if they're doing it without favor, they're building on sand. They're constantly looking over their shoulder, constantly guarding what they gained, constantly questioning who they can trust. But favor gives you rest. Favor gives you confidence. Favor gives you the assurance that if God brought you to it, He'll bring you through it and He'll sustain it. Now, don't get it twisted. Favor is not an excuse to be passive. You still need to show up. You still need to be excellent. You still need to be prepared. But favor means that you're not doing it alone. You're not pushing in your own strength. You're moving with a divine advantage. And when you understand that, you stop trying to force every door open. You stop trying to network your way into rooms where God hasn't sent you. You stop comparing your journey to someone else's highlight reel. Favor is God's yes on your life. It's His supernatural endorsement. It's the evidence that you are walking in your calling, even when the path doesn't look like you expected. And here's the beauty. You don't have to beg for favor. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to earn it. Favor finds you when you're walking in obedience. Favor follows you when you're submitted to the process. Favor surrounds you when your heart is surrendered. So stop trying to force what only favor can fulfill. Stop exhausting yourself trying to open what God hasn't unlocked. Because when favor steps in, it doesn't take 10 years. It takes one moment, one conversation, one introduction, one shift, one door, and everything changes, not because of force, but because of favor. Preparation during the wait is proof of faith. Anyone can believe for a moment, but real faith is revealed in what you do while you wait for the promise to manifest. Waiting is not passive. Waiting is not idle. Waiting is not sitting around hoping something happens. Waiting is active preparation rooted in expectation. It's saying, I may not see the door yet, but I believe it's coming, so I'm getting ready now. Too many people want the reward without the readiness. They want the opportunity without the preparation. They pray for doors to open, but when the door swings wide, they're not positioned to walk through it. That's because they saw waiting as a punishment, not a process. But God uses the waiting room to shape you, to build you, to mature you. He uses the wait to refine your character, strengthen your mindset, and deepen your trust. If you're asking God for something big, the question is, are you preparing for it? You want the business, but have you studied your field? You want the platform, but have you developed your voice? You want the relationship, but are you emotionally whole? Faith doesn't just hope for the door, it builds for it. It's the mindset that says, I may not have the position yet, but I'm going to act like I do. It's showing up early, working in obscurity, learning in silence, and trusting that God sees what nobody else does. David was anointed king long before he ever sat on the throne. What did he do in the meantime? He kept tending sheep. He kept practicing with his slingshot. He didn't rush the palace. He let God prepare him in the pasture. Because David understood that if God called him, God would also bring him into the place of promise. But he had to be ready when the moment came. There's a kind of preparation that only happens in the dark. There are skills you only learn in the quiet. There's a version of you that can only be formed when nobody's watching. That's the power of preparation. You're not just getting ready for the door to open. You're becoming the person who can handle what's on the other side. God is not just preparing the opportunity for you. He's preparing you for the opportunity. If the door opened today, would you be ready to walk through it? Not just in skill, but in mindset. Not just in talent, but in character. Not just in ambition, but in wisdom. Because favor without preparation can lead to failure. But favor combined with preparation produces longevity, stability, and impact. Every delay has a purpose. Every not yet has an assignment. If you're waiting, it's not wasted. God is watching what you do in this season. He's looking at how you steward your time, your resources, your relationships, your thoughts. Are you sharpening your gifts? Are you managing your emotions? Are you staying faithful in the small things? The waiting season is not just about what God is doing for you. It's about what He's doing having you. And the way you prepare during the wait shows Him and shows yourself that you actually believe the door is coming. That kind of preparation is prophetic. It says, I'm moving like it's already on the way. That's what Noah did. He built the ark before the first drop of rain ever fell. That's what Joseph did. He interpreted dreams in prison, even when his own dreams seemed distant. That's what Esther did. She submitted to the preparation process before she ever stood before the king. So don't complain about the wait. Don't despise the process. Don't curse the season. Use it. Maximize it. Get in the habit of preparation, because when the door opens, it will be too late to start building. You prepare in faith, you wait in trust, and you walk through the door in confidence, not because you forced it, but because you were faithful before it ever appeared. Follow God, not just opportunity. That one decision can save you years of struggle, confusion, and detours. Opportunities will come and go, and not all of them are meant for you. Some will look perfect on the surface. More money, more exposure, more influence. But the question you have to ask is, did God lead me here, or did I just chase what looked good? Because everything that glitters isn't God. Sometimes the greatest threat to your destiny isn't failure. It's success in the wrong direction. It's being celebrated for something God never called you to do. It's climbing the ladder of opportunity only to realize it's leaning against the wrong wall. That's what happens when you follow opportunity without seeking God. You start making moves based on logic, not revelation. You base decisions on pressure, not peace. You start saying yes out of fear of missing out, instead of trusting that what's for you will never require you to step outside of God's will to receive it. Opportunities are everywhere, but discernment is rare. You have to know the difference between a good thing and our God thing. Some doors are tests, not invitations. They show up to see if you'll chase the shiny or choose the sacred. And if you're not grounded, you'll find yourself constantly pivoting, constantly distracted, constantly uprooting yourself, thinking every new thing is the next big thing. But God is not in every opportunity. He's in His plan. Following God means sometimes walking away from what everyone else is running toward. It means saying no to the deal that checks every box except your spirit. It means choosing purpose over popularity, peace over pressure, and obedience over optics. And the only way to stay aligned is to stay connected. You have to keep your ear tuned to His voice so you don't get swept up in noise that sounds like progress but leads to emptiness. You don't need every opportunity. You need the right one. The one God authored, the one that fits your assignment, the one that brings clarity, not chaos, the one that elevates you without changing your identity. And that door only opens when you follow God, not the crowd, not the algorithm, not the paycheck. There's nothing wrong with ambition. But ambition without submission will take you places your soul can't survive. When you follow God, you don't have to chase. You don't have to perform. You don't have to hustle for validation. You just move in obedience. And the right doors open at the right time for the right reasons. So before you say yes, before you jump at the next offer, before you switch lanes because it looks faster, pause. Listen and ask, God, is this you or is this just noise? Because the safest place to be is not in the most promising opportunity, but in the center of His will. Peace is the confirmation of the right door. When God opens a door for you, one of the clearest signs is the presence of peace. Not the absence of challenge, but the presence of inner calm. You may still have questions. You may still feel stretched. You may still face resistance. But deep within, there is a settledness, a knowing that even if the path isn't easy, it's right. That's the kind of peace that doesn't come from circumstances. It comes from alignment. Peace is more than a feeling, it's a signal. It's how your spirit agrees with God's direction. You can fake confidence, you can fake excitement, but you cannot fake peace. If something looks good on paper, but your spirit is uneasy, pay attention. If everyone else is clapping but something feels off, listen. Because ignoring that lack of peace just to pursue an opportunity can lead you into unnecessary battles and spiritual fatigue. Some people step into open doors and instantly feel drained, not because they're afraid, but because they stepped out of alignment. That's the cost of ignoring peace. God gives peace as a form of protection. It's how He steers you. It's how He confirms timing. It's how He speaks beyond what logic can explain. And when peace leaves, that's a sign to pause, pray, and reevaluate. You can't afford to silence your spirit just to satisfy your ambition. There are situations that seem perfect, but come with a weight your soul was never meant to carry. There are connections that seem divine, but slowly start to dim your light. That's why peace has to be the guide, not pressure, not opinions, not urgency. Peace doesn't push. Peace leads. Don't confuse peace with comfort. Sometimes peace will lead you into a space that challenges you. But even in the stretch, there's stability. Even in the unknown, there's clarity. You're not second-guessing every step. You're not battling anxiety every night. You're not having to convince yourself daily that you made the right choice. Peace confirms what your spirit already knows, This is the right door, the right time, and the right move. When you walk through a door with peace, you carry a different kind of confidence. Not arrogance, but assurance. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to perform for approval. You just show up knowing God is with you, and that's enough. Peace is your anchor. Peace is your witness. Peace is your yes. So hear this, you don't have to force what God has already written. You don't have to chase doors, manipulate outcomes, or beg for access. What's yours is already aligned with your obedience, your preparation, and your faith. God's timing is never off. His path is never random. And when he opens the right door, no man can shut it. Walk with the confidence that you're not being overlooked. You're being prepared. Trust the silence. Honor the process. Move in peace. Because when God opens the right door, you won't have to knock twice. It will swing wide with favor, clarity, and purpose. And you'll know beyond a doubt this is what you were made for.